Over the next few months, you're going to have a lot of people giving you reasons why Caleb Williams should and should not be drafted first overall. He went 7-5. He cried in his mom's arms. He wouldn't speak to the media. He paints his nails. His dad might be a problem. Well, today I'm going to cut through the BS and the noise and explain to you why, to quote the movie Draft Day, it's Caleb Williams no matter what. I got a feel-good story for you. What else do you want the man to do? We're counting down the best plays. How do you define success?
George Wrighster.
The only reason Caleb Williams wasn't the #1 overall pick after his Heisman-winning sophomore campaign is because the NFL rules state that you have to be 3 years removed from your high school graduating class to be eligible. And that ain't no disrespect to Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or Anthony Richardson. Caleb Williams just happens to be a healthy mix of all three of those guys: cerebral, he's strong-armed, and athletic. And as the 24 draft approaches, you'll have people ignoring all these facts and placing their bets on guys trying to look smart. But maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe there are people that genuinely believe that North Carolina's Drake May is a better pro prospect, or that a quarterback won't even go first overall this year. According to NFL Mock Draft Tracker, only 6 of the 14 mock drafts that were released this week have Caleb Williams going first overall. 5 have Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. going first overall. A wide receiver isn't going #1. It hasn't happened since 1996 when Keyshawn Johnson went #1. And with the increase in trades and the friendliness of rookie quarterback contracts, it might never happen again. Even if a wide receiver is the best player in the country, teams with a need at quarterback are gonna find a way to trade up and make the best available passer the first overall pick. And that quarterback this year is Caleb Williams. But George, he went 7-5 this season. And I don't care. Patrick Mahomes was 13-19 running the same air raid offense while being supplemented by 0 defense. USC was 4th worst among Power 5 teams in defensive yards allowed and 5th worst in points allowed. Wins as a stat is the laziest critique of all time. We see Justin Herbert dealing with this at the NFL level. But at the college level, come on now, man. It didn't affect Mahomes. Josh Allen is leading the NFL in touchdowns, and he was 16-11 in his final 2 years at Wyoming. Sam Howell is leading the NFL in passing yards, and he was 6-7 his last year at North Carolina. Brock Purdy leads the NFL in passer rating, and he was 7-6 as a senior at Iowa State. But George, he doesn't speak to the media after losses. That's a head coaching issue. Lincoln Riley is generationally soft when it comes to dealing with the press. And if Williams had any other coach, he'd likely been obligated to speak out on behalf of his team's performances. It would have been good for Caleb Williams to get those reps in now, because it is not common for rookie quarterbacks to do a whole lot of winning right away in the NFL. But this isn't something that is going to affect his on-field play. But I will admit, it is no coincidence that Lincoln Riley's former quarterbacks have had some of the most contentious relationships with the media at the NFL level. So you know what they say. You can lead a quarterback to the #1 overall pick, but you can't make him get along with Colin Cowherd and Dan Patrick. But George, he cries after losses. I will admit, I think it's bad optics to curl up in your mom's arms after a regular season loss, but do you want somebody who cares about winning or not? We were told, though, that introducing NIL money into the college football ecosystem was going to take away the players' edge and their hunger. But Caleb Williams makes more money than probably anybody, maybe except Shedeur Sanders, and he's still pissed about going 0 against Utah. And if the average 21-year-old has $2, $3, $4 million in the bank, do you think that anything that Kyle Whittingham at Utah could say or do to make them cry? You have to be a special level of crazy competitor to be 21, rich, and crying hot tears on the sideline. But George, he paints his fingernails. What about it? It ain't my jam, but do you think anybody in the locker room is gonna care about his nails if he's out there dropping dimes? His mom's a nail tech and it's 2023. And if it makes people feel any better, he was using his nails to talk trash to his opponents. And if you watched basketball in the 90s, you know it adds another level of pain to get out-rebounded by a man with 7 different colors of hair dye and a wedding dress in his closet. Shout out our man, Dennis Rodman. But George, his dad is always saying wild stuff to the media. Is he though? Because if Carl Williams wasn't Caleb's father, what he had to say about the way the NFL draft is constructed would just be considered an intelligent observation. Because Carl Williams told GQ magazine, quote, The funky thing about the NFL draft process is he'd almost be better off not being drafted than being drafted first. The system is completely backwards. The way the system is constructed, you go to the worst possible situation. The worst possible team, probably one of the worst organizations in the league, because of their desire for parity, they get the first overall pick. So it's the gift and the curse. What's wrong with that? This was an opinion that is, number one, true, and number two, came out of a relationship that Carl Williams had with Archie Manning, who famously and smartly kept Eli Manning from going to the Chargers. There are franchises that you want to avoid if you're a quarterback. The Bears, Jets, Chargers, Browns all have failed to prove that they know how to set up a franchise quarterback for success. As far as I can tell, the only valid criticism of Caleb Williams is the spectacular way he extends plays at USC is going to get him killed in the NFL. And yeah, he's not going to be able to hold the ball for 8 seconds while dodging Myles Garrett, but how many quarterbacks in the NFL even have the escapability to buy themselves 4 seconds? That one legitimate potential weakness is also a potential strength in the right situation. So NFL GMs, I can't promise you success, but don't overthink this. Put the blame for all the things that give you pause and concern when it comes to Caleb Williams where they belong, on the shoulders of his head coach, Lincoln Riley. And when it comes to announce the number one pick, you know what it is. Caleb Williams, no matter what.